Carla. This is June 18th and more than likely my last update. Unfortunately, due to everything that has happened in the past few weeks, I have been unable to take my medications for the month of June. So since June 1st, I hadn't taken them. And obviously, I believe that between those and my experimental shot was what was causing me to be violently ill all the time and keep on going to the hospital, because I honestly thought that I was dying. I mean, I couldn't even get up to pee or anything. And I was getting infection after infection after infection, in the lungs, UTIs. I mean, it was just god-awful. And when I stopped taking it in June, within the first week, I started to have energy and feel better. And so I said, oh my gosh, it had to have been all those medicines that I'm taking, right? So I had my appointment for this month, and right now I'm driving back to Brownsville, so I'm going to give you the update of what happened while I was in Houston and seeing all of my doctors. The first day of appointments, it was with my cardiologist, and he said basically that yes, my heart is damaged, not to the point where I'm going to need a transplant, but in the future, as I get older, I will have problems, and to try to control my blood pressure and eat well, and to try to prevent from having like a heart attack or something like that, something that will cause more damage, and but other than that, it was optimistic, and I only have to see him like once a year or maybe twice a year, depending on how I am. And he said that he could get me a doctor that I don't have to be coming all the way to Houston for that. That they'll give him, the messages anyway. Because if it ever comes down to it and I need an operation, I will be going back to Houston, because I ain't getting it done in the valley. And so the next one was the neurologist, and he said that from the aneurysm, and I had prior blood vessels pop that I had no clue about, because he counted all together 4 when they did the scan, and 1 was fresh, which is the one that I had recently. And he said basically that I'm very lucky that I'm alive, and that my service dog Olive woke me, because if I wouldn't have woken up, I would have passed away. And my dog vigorously was like pushing my head and like licking and pushing, and she was doing it not like she usually does, lovingly. She was very assertive, and when I did wake up, that's when I called 911, and if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be sitting right here right now driving back home. So I gotta give my dog a lot of kisses for that. And but he did say that I will have some memory loss, and to be patient, and to exercise my brain, which I giggled a bit, but what he meant was like doing puzzles and reading books, stuff like that uses your brain, and so I guess I could do that, and then the last doctor for that day, and I think it was a urologist, or I'm not really 100% sure what his name is. I know his last name, but not what type of doctor. But I think it was, because he was checking about my kidneys and my liver, and he said on the liver part that he's going to, for now, let it stay as is, but if it keeps on, I guess, because there's a part of my liver that got severely damaged, right? And if it keeps on aggravating me or whatever, that, you know, they could just remove that part and it'll regenerate itself. Now, on the kidneys, I don't need dialysis at this point. He says as long as I stay off or lay off the dark drinks and eat healthier, and, you know, I should be fine. You know, so that was optimistic, and that was the end of the day for that one. And by the time I got to my brother's, you know, I was exhausted. And the next day I went to MD Anderson. And when I got put into the room, and the doctor who this time I saw was my primary one, the main one, you know, and he put the shot on before I could even tell, you know, the experimental one that I'm on. He put the shot on me before I could even tell him that I hadn't been taking the medicines that I can't afford, you know, and so he put it on me anyway, and I started to tell him as he was doing it, you know, and I said, I haven't been on them since the beginning of this month. I said, I was going to buy them. I said, but when I had the aneurysm, you know, I had my purse with me, and when they took me to radiology, I left everything there thinking that it's safe, but someone literally just took my wallet. They didn't even bother taking the purse. They just took the wallet, and I had the money from all the furniture and purses and belongings that I have had. You know, they took it all, and I didn't have enough anymore. And in actuality, I don't even know how I'm going to pay back the bank, because I'm in a negative, you know. And so, you know, I told him that, and I said, but you know, does it count for something that I'm 11 months of having this experimental treatment? And, you know, and he says it is, but, you know, I still have a little bit of cancer in me, and this month it would have knocked it out completely, you know. And so, you know, that was the gist, basically, you know. But I did tell him, I said, I realize now that between the experimental and the other ones together that I was taking, they were making me feel like I was dying, like I was knocking on death's door, because I couldn't even get up to pee. I didn't want to get up. I mean, I didn't want to eat. I didn't want nothing, you know. It felt literally like I was dying. And then when this month started, and I stopped taking the very expensive ones, the ones that I was asking for y'all's help with, when I stopped taking them, I started to feel better, and I started to have more energy, and you know, it was like a different me, right? You know what I mean? And he says, yeah, because, like, I mean, it's chemo, literally, with another thing that's experimental, that suppresses and keeps the cancer at bay, you know, while chemo does its job, you know. And so both of them put together work 100%, you know. And so I told him, and they did the PET scan, and, you know, a whole bunch of other exams that they have to, and they showed it to me where I still have, I mean, I want to say a lot, like if you have fingernails, like the ladies' fingernails, like half of what a normal fingernail is, you know, just small, you know. And he had, and he says, and you can't get the money any other way. And I said, no, I can't, you know, I mean, but because I'm supposed to stay on those medicines, that the ones that are extremely expensive, the ones that I was asking y'all for help, I didn't realize that they wanted me to be on those forever, you know. And I thought it was just going to be the preventives, and the preventives, well, hell yeah, I can afford my preventives. I can't afford the other ones. I mean, they're like close to $1,000 a month, you know. And then all together with my preventives and stuff, You know, I mean, it's crazy, right? And, you know, but I told him, I said, if I continue feeling well, that I was going to look for a job and find maybe a job that can give me insurance, but at the meantime, try to see if I can find a supplemental insurance to see if I can cover the rest of the medicines, the $1,000 medicines, and since I have to take them. And, but for right now, I don't have any money until I'm going to have to get back on the saddle and get a job. So, you know, there's that. And it was bittersweet because, you know, I'm going to have to take a PET scan every 2 weeks to make sure that the cancer doesn't grow or spread. Because if it does, then I would have to go back into full-blown chemotherapy. And I do not want to do that at all. I'm tired. And I don't think I have the will at that point if they tell me this. And but the trip wasn't a waste because I got to see my brother and I got to see my brother-in-law, my brother's husband, Paul, who is got diagnosed with stomach cancer, stage 4, and it's terminal. And I got to spend some time with him, and it just gave me flashbacks of my mother, you know, because he has that same gaunt look about him. And I couldn't understand what he was saying, or, I mean, it breaks my heart, and it breaks my heart for my brother as well, that he's going through this. And, you know, I know they sold their house, and they're moving in next week to an apartment. So he had to get rid of most of his stuff, and he's having an estate sale on Saturday. And, you know, I couldn't stay because I have to get back to my dogs and to my, you know, the health. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to be optimistic. And I'm, you know, even though I still have cancer, technically, I'm going to hope that those 11 months that I had of 100%, the experimental trial and with the expensive $1,000 medicines. And also, thank you guys to my donors for the last 2 months that got me there.
Search onto US 77 toward Kingsville.
Because I would not
Phone call
have
completed.
had 11 months of treatment without you guys. So thank you. Thank you very much from the bottom of my heart, and all my supporters and the prayers. Thank you. I appreciate it so much. And I am so grateful that I had at least 11 months of treatment. And thank you again for that. And but yeah, I mean, I am still kind of bitter about losing all that money and the fact that I'm negative in one of my banks. It just really upsets me. So I'm not even going to be able to like rehabilitate quickly or anything. I'm just going to have to start looking for work like quickly, because I need the money to take care of my bills, my house bills, and try to have enough every month to buy those medicines that are $1,000. You know what I mean? So I'm just gonna like hit the floor running instead of trying to recover from all this stuff that I have gone through, and hopefully I can find a job. I'm praying to God I can. So everything is now up to God, because if my cancer that I have right now still left spreads or grows you know, the doctor said I might have to go back on full-blown chemotherapy, and I don't know if I really want to do that. I don't know. I find it brave that Paul and my mother, you know, did it, you know, but I don't know if I can be that brave, you know. And, but it is what it is. And I'm thinking this might be the last of my updates. I know I'm going to have to have a PET scan done every 2 weeks to a month, depending on if it's growing or not. And I'm just praying that it does not grow. And with my preventatives that I'm taking, that it keeps it at bay. I don't know if it will. I mean, I just wish I found a sack of money laying on like the ground and it had enough for my medicine. You know what I mean? But I'm not that lucky. But other than that, I think everything will be fine. I'm hoping. I'm going to stay optimistic, and this is probably my last update, unless something miraculous happens. And I just wanted to thank all of y'all so much for everything that y'all have done, and I appreciate it. I truly appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. I love you guys, and keep on praying. I love you.